So, Master Temple of the Spider. Well, I managed to actually complete it on my wizard, which is pretty good. And all things considered, I didn't do so badly. This kind of goes to show the significant improvements they've done to the wizard. And coming from a person who's never really seriously played the wizard, being able to deal this much damage means perhaps it's a little overtuned. We might be getting some classes up in arms with the devs asking for nerfs. We shall see when it goes to the live server. But let's go through my run. Now we of course start out with just having to kill a bunch of ads, and I'm going with a mishmash arcanist build for this, mainly because of the arcane wizardry feat giving you the ability to have combat advantage against everything. Actually works a bit better than I initially thought. Basically, if you attack somebody and deal a crit, a 10% chance, you gain combat advantage against everything. I thought it would just be against the target you hit, like it is, I believe, on the Warlock. Anyway, that just makes the Arcanist, in my opinion, probably the best AoE damage dealer, especially after these buffs, with its sheer powers then having that raw damage output versus the Thaumaturge. Of course, going to single target, we are switching over to our Thaumaturge. For some reason, the Masterwork weapons weren't transferring properly. Again, you can see my power setup just here. I was tempted to go Icy Terrain for the ads, and definitely it will help and I would recommend it. But in this run I decided not to use Icy Terrain and let the others deal most of the AoE damage. We start with an artifact call and we literally just spamming down on encounters with Ray of Enfeeblement at the beginning, and then, well, we didn't have our daily power but we used our mount power there just near the end of the artifact call, and the spiders turn up. Now I don't have much AoE, but there's not that many spiders, so we can just deal as much damage as we can with some single target powers, moving out of areas and moving them away. We can dodge, we can stay at range, and otherwise it's like significantly more easier than the rogue. You only have to use like one at will, at least as far as I know. Can probably do a bit more min-maxing with damage in terms of maybe using like the other at will powers for, let's say, some arcane stacks. Right now I'm just using Chilling Cloud, which procs all that chill on the target, which helps for that damage. And otherwise, yeah, just spamming those encounters. Try and have the buff from Ray of Enfeeblement up nice and early, and then artifact comes around again and we have our daily power this time, just making sure to save that till about 55 seconds on our artifact, and then we go and use that combo there and we deal pretty heavy damage, and we're saving our mount power for those barrels. And they've actually added some sound into the boss fight so that you can hear when one of those barrel bombs spawns, so you'll be able to hear the tick 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 sound, and then you'll find the bomb and you'll be able to kill it ASAP. Now, this boss fight will definitely get easier over time, and I'm already finding it with more than half of these players not even having ever stepped foot in here. It's still not that challenging once you get the mechanics down, and it's not like we have the craziest damage group ever either. We're still taking our time, and yeah, again, just the wizard felt really easy to play. Like going from the rogue where you have to be up in the boss's face all the time, this just feels so much more relaxing, being able to have the choice to have that distance. Of course, we want to stay close enough for like our wasteland boots in order to gain the combat advantage. I hope to be able to switch away from those in my build moving forward, but I still need to do more optimizing. Like the build I'm going in here it's as good as I could get in, let's say, one sitting of testing, and that was about it. Do some more testing, I could squeeze out some more damage. Here's again another artifact call with the daily, and we don't have the mount power. Again, we're saving those for those bombs, and those daily powers can deal upwards of like 4 million during an artifact call with just 5 players. It's really good versus using it by yourself. You're only maybe getting 2 million max. Otherwise, we're just burning down this boss, and we had a pretty smooth run, all things considered, until we come near the end. You will see. Now, these spiders spawning in with all their webs on the ground are real annoying, but again, being ranged, you don't need to stay next to them to maximize your damage. It really feels good. Keep in mind again, like, the only DPS I've ever played was a rogue, seriously. I've never really played the other classes in any serious manner. Played the fighter maybe in a few dragon hunts, and that was about it. I have not played the other classes really in terms of damage. So all my experience comes from playing on a rogue, and otherwise before that it was mainly just playing the paladin, which I still do when my group needs a healer or a tank. Like, it's so much easier as a newer player to have a support to be able to fill groups, as a lot of groups will require either a tank or a healer more so than a DPS. Here we get another one of those bombs, trying to avoid the trap there, and oh my god, we got stuck. So that bomb was all on my teammates. I walked too close to that trap, which means it triggered and we were dazed and just stuck, and I was with the healer as well. But the teammates managed to destroy that barrel bomb, so we were pretty good there. We're on the 0 choking gas stacks, so we're basically acing the mechanics, not getting anything wrong. Of course, standing in a trap or two is wrong, but at least we're not getting punished over the long term. Like, those choking gas stacks will basically make it so you take damage over time, and the more stacks you have, the more heavy that damage is over time. Like, if you get more than 5-6 stacks, you're probably going to take more damage than your healer can handle over any length of time. Here, big rip. We exploded 10 of those bombs. Yeah, I didn't know what to say. I totally thought it was game over, but this healer we had, she was great. Like, just but the timing between my health stone and her heals was really good. However, we did die there, and now you can see that was a daily power. It's completely saved us. We're going to use our stone of health each time, but no need. Healer got my back. We did use the stone of health there, doing our burst damage as best we can, clutching up. This is not something you want to do on the live server because this costs a lot of resources. Just burning through it with the scrolls, and guess what? I didn't even have revive sickness on. We die out in the last 2%. A little embarrassing here, I must say, but the rogue DPS manages to carry through with not having as many skulls. He dies. It's left with the healer and the tank with next to no percentage left. And you can see they just about managed to clutch up, and we beat the first boss. We should not have beat it there on freaking 10 stacks, but I guess that's part of the game. That's fun. We did the work. We put the work in to get it down to that far, and by chance we managed to finish with our tank and healer. Again, switching over to Arcanus, as we're going to have a few groups of ads for the next boss. We've got that Nightmare Wizardry there, and we proceed on. Yeah, that was definitely a pretty messy ending. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I think one of them exploded the barrels via the red areas. But we just got to slog through a bunch of spiders here, and realistically, if you have an incubus or a succubus, they can literally just carry you in AoE damage. Again, we got to switch over to that Thaumaturge for the second boss, and let's get this done. Now, this boss, some would argue it's the most challenging in the dungeon. They've actually changed a few things, and I'll go over as we go over the mechanics, but we're starting out here with just big burst damage, and on a rogue, these webs are real annoying. It's like if I want to stand next to the boss, you're in the webs or having to move a lot, and on the wizard, again, having that distance is like so much easier. I did feel I ran out of stamina a bit more in the wizard though than I did the rogue. But we faced the boss at 80% and we moved to our sides, and we got to kill these Yoglols, basically demon creatures. And on the rogue I struggle with this because we have 3 encounters and each of them are like 10 to 15 seconds. Whereas on the wizard you got 4 encounters and they're only, again, also like the rogue though, 10 to 15 seconds. But just having that extra encounter gives you that extra burst damage that a rogue would miss. You could argue the rogue has higher magnitude single target powers, but at this point they're pretty close by now. Being able to split up your burst between 4 encounters then 3 encounters, I found it easier in this phase, along with having them at range. You don't have to move up close to every single target. Again, we did our artifact call there again with our daily and our mount. We aren't really saving our burst too much for the phase with the demons, but this mechanic right here, you saw where 2 people got the red areas and I moved in between. I found it's dealing a lot more damage now if you move together. Let's say I'm in the red area, yet I don't have the line. I seem to take a lot more damage than I would before. I'll go and show a demonstration a bit later, but here again, I have the red line and so does the other guy, and you don't want to overlap. And I found if, let's say I didn't have the red line, yet I was still in the red, I was taking like over 1 million damage and dying in one hit. So they seem to have adjusted it, which is pretty smart, so that if you don't have a red line with the big red area centered on you, you have to move out of the red area. So just something to know if you're planning to do this master version of the dungeon. Even in the normal version, I believe the mechanic is still there, but there you go. We want to make sure we move out of that. But you see the massive amount of damage. That was 899,000. I nearly got one shot by that. And that was because I was in the red area, yet I didn't have the line. And I've been hit like 1.1 million by that. Here we get these ghosts here, the purple ones. It's like a DPS check. The healers have like these other ghosts you have to heal. I've made a whole video explaining the mechanics of this dungeon, and you should be able to find the link in the video description. So you can watch that if you want to jump into this dungeon and get a bit prepared. But I think we did pretty terrible on this boss, all things considered, and we literally just kind of forced our way through it, brute forced it. I'm not getting one shot, as the survivability is quite a lot higher on the wizard than it is on the rogue. Big reason is the wizard has critical avoidance as their forte, meaning they get one shot less on a critical hit, because versus a rogue they only have deflect severity, so they will take less damage on a deflect, whereas to avoid a one shot you need to mitigate a critical hit on top of just the normal damage. So having that advantage to reduce the critical hit every time makes it significantly easier to not get one shot on the wizard. Again, that was the area mechanics you saw there, and occasionally the boss, or I don't know what that is on the dais, will let out a scream, and they've really made it like a scream, and it's a bit eerie. But yeah, that scream is basically unavoidable damage, and you just got to be able to survive it. Basically, if it crits and you don't, you will basically get one shot if you aren't like full HP. Now you can see here, this is some weird mechanics. And let's skip back. You can see we're at the phase where we've got to kill the demons again, but there's something new here. You have to kill every single demon. They don't disappear. Because look at this beam they put on you. We have 3 of those and we die. Now we're just waiting, hoping that they will despawn, but they don't. We scroll back up and immediately we got to kill those demons. Again, that damage we just took there was the burst. These demons are not disappearing anymore. They will deal damage to people. You have to kill them ASAP. It's a pretty neat mechanic, I think, by now, because it's like you gotta clutch up, guys. You can't just brute force your way through it. But we managed to do so, but actually not on this run. We get the boss to like 5% and everybody's dead. I'm like on multiple skulls here, and guess what? I didn't have my revive sickness. We managed to beat it when I did have my revive sickness, but this was painful. Like, you can see our other wizard is dead. I'm trying to move out of these red areas. I totally thought I had stamina left, but I didn't and couldn't move out of that quick enough. So I died there again, taking a needless skull. And we've only got like probably 500k hit points, so we don't have a chance to survive against these things. And this red area comes to me and rip. And then we're just gonna die again. This boss is pretty mechanically heavy in my opinion. Like, compared to the other bosses, you gotta do a lot more of playing the mechanics, like separating out your burst and playing it all right, because we're on 10 ritual strength, so we're taking a lot more damage. And you can see that's when we switch to the revive sickness and realize we didn't actually have it active. If we didn't have that revive sickness, there's a few times there I wouldn't have died, and we become dead. Now, unfortunately, I didn't record where we completed it. And you can see we did just here, and we obtained the currency for it. And that was the boss complete. But you can see this is the pain giver at the moment. I'm over a 1.1 billion damage at this point. And you can see the wizard definitely does pretty well here on this boss, especially getting ahead of like the rogue we have, and he's not such a bad rogue. And the big reason is because it's ranged versus melee, and it's the second boss is majoritively favoring like ranged because of all those red areas, because of the webs get put next to the boss, etc. Now you just got to kill 2 groups of ads. I don't bother switching over to the Arcanist because the campfire is before the second boss. No point going back. We just use our single target powers and deal whatever damage we can, and we move to the final boss. Now, unfortunately here, our other wizard friend had to go, so we got a rogue to join us instead, Shadeen, and this was our successful attempt, but we did spend probably an hour on this boss, maybe a little bit less. But the big problematic mechanic is that damn cocoon. Getting that guy out in time is the biggest challenge on this boss fight. The rest is pretty straightforward. You just got red areas to avoid and lines to intercept. The green line again is just reducing your incoming healing, and the red line is just giving you damage over time, and you kind of want to spread out the stacks. Again, you can watch my more in-depth mechanics video linked in the video description below. But again, it's such a breeze on the wizard here. You again have a bit more burst damage than the rogue because you have 4 encounters, a little bit lower cooldowns as well, but you still kind of need to get the timing right and make sure those encounters are off cooldown for that cocoon, or you do get a bit screwed over because you're not powerful enough to burn the cocoon down with just at-wills. Maybe the fighter can do that, but definitely not the wizard. And we get the cocoon again here, and yeah, we nearly got screwed over because our encounters were still on cooldown, but we managed with the help of the teammates there. And otherwise, yeah, again, this boss, she'll ramp up when she hits 50%, doing a bit more damage. But before that, we get stuck in the cocoon and they gotta free us out. They just about managed to do so again, clutching up. But hitting that again, that 50%, you can see you start getting these red areas that follow you around, which is a freaking pain in the ass for melee DPS if they spawn next to the boss. They spawn on you, so if you're melee DPS and you get targeted by it, well, you just gotta keep moving. Whereas on the wizard, you can move and just keep attacking. So yeah, it's really beneficial to be ranged. So many dungeons that being ranged helps so much. And then we get another cocoon and we gotta break the guy out. We do have a few encounters, enough to break him out, but of course with help of the other DPS. And otherwise this boss, there isn't too much to it. It's, in my opinion, the easiest boss, yet the hardest boss. The only reason it's hard, the cocoon. That's it. No other complexity to it other than make sure to intercept the lines and try make it so that not one person takes all the lines, but realistically, like, a good tank can take many of the lines before anybody else needs to. But otherwise, yeah, we do get a few deaths here and there. I'm still not dead yet once. It's so much easier being ranged, dodge out of those areas, fighting to take the lines. What we do not want to happen is that green line hitting the boss. The red line targets players, and that just deals damage. There's no way you can avoid it other than intercept it instead of somebody else. Again, I'm stuck in the cocoon. We got this keybind to make it so much easier to see the person who's in the cocoon. Would highly recommend everybody use that. And again, the green line targets the boss, and if the green line hits the boss, that's why you have to intercept it like I do over here. The boss will heal and get a buff. That's what we do not want to happen. So I just took the death there. I knew I was going to die because we were in the poison ground area there. Again, we got the cocoon to take care of. We have another green line over there, and we failed. We were too busy with the cocoon. Tank was probably busy as well trying to survive, as he's got quite a few of those debuffs. But you can see what I mean. The boss got healed, got buffed as well, so we deal less damage. And yeah, I do not want that to happen again. We've had too many wipes with the boss because of that little bit of extra HP the boss took with that green line. We used our mount power there just to try our best to get the guy out, and we just about managed to do so with the other DPS's help. And at this point, it's looking like a decent win. Unfortunately, still 30 seconds on the artifact call, but I do have only like 2 skulls, so I can die a few times, not a problem. Make sure to intercept that green line, and we're all good and dandy. We did not actually take the red line. Somebody took it instead of us. Very generous of them. And I didn't actually take the red debuff, but ouch, I'm not actually sure what hit me there with 500k. But again, another green line and another cocoon. We can't just like go all out on the boss at the certain times, because you gotta make sure you remember every 30 seconds you nearly get a cocoon. And then if you don't have the burst damage to break the guy out, they end up permadead. Again, the green line, make sure we intercept that. I think Arithis actually intercepted that and ended up dead. But we managed to complete. And with that complete, that's your master version. You get your currency for your store. And additionally, we're going to actually be able to open our chests here. Awesome. Chests giving you like some refinements, not a bad amount, some of the currency for the campaign, and primitive moat there, whatever. But you also, most importantly, get the new mythic rings. Are they any good? We're gonna have to go over that in another video. Some of them are good, some of them are just like, why do they exist? So that was it. Master Temple of the Spider complete on my wizard. That's like the first time I played any serious content on my wizard. And again, these is the pain giver with the rest of the boards here. I probably died the most. Oh, I didn't actually. There was a lot of times I was scrolling a lot near the end just to get that daily power for the artifact call in the next attempt. But anyway, you can see the rest of the results there. And oh, we did actually manage to kill the most. I will credit majority of that to my succubus though. And there we have it. If you really want me, I can publish my build, but I do want to make a few more adjustments to it. Potentially getting some of the masterwork gear instead of this stuff. The headpiece, I'm not too happy about it. And the arms, I'm not too happy either. If we, let's say, jump into a beginning of the fight, we can see, let's say, does the headpiece proc off with maximum stacks before I, let's say, use my mount power or daily power? I'm not actually sure if I even get my daily power, but we can see we're using our encounters there, and before we use our mount power, we can see we do have 10 stacks of Garistro and we do have 5 stacks for my armor. So perhaps it's not such a big deal, but you can see just using our outlaws there, we do not gain any of the stacks from our headpiece, but we do seem to gain enough stacks quick enough for our mount power and our daily, so that probably isn't such a big deal on the wizard. And maintaining those stacks on the wizard probably isn't that hard either, because you have multiple encounters to be easily able to proc it all. So yeah, I'm not too unhappy with the serene hood and then also the tactful leathers on the wizard at all. The arms, I would like to switch them to something more useful, something more with more stats, like this is only giving 5% power. And boots, I would like to switch those out as well, because having to stand 25 feet or close to the target is kind of annoying. I would be perfectly happy to be able to stand 50 feet or further away. Not force me to stand that far away, but give me at least the option to have the maximum amount of damage without having to stand like so close to the boss. Comfortable range is probably 30-40 feet for me, depending on the boss and the mechanics. Like if you have a boss like this final boss here with the red area spawning on somebody, then it's best not to be grouped up, and especially not to be next to the boss, because then melee DPS will struggle with that. Overall, that's my run, Master Temple of the Spider complete on my wizard. Maybe you learned a thing or two with regards to how to play the wizard, at least from how I'm playing it. It seems very effective right now. It'll probably go to the live server and stay this way for at least a few months, potentially getting a few adjustments, aka nerfs, if it seems overpowered in endgame content, which will take time for the devs to actually get the proper data on. So I'm going to enjoy being this powerful as we go into Module 24. With that said, a special thank you to all of these channel members for their continued support. And if I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.